Welcome back to Fantasy Football Aces, a unique perspective. I'm your boy, William Wolf. And today we're going to dive into a topic that nobody else is really talking about. It's my own little theory in fantasy football. And that is teams that you should be avoiding. Now, what do I mean by that? This is what I mean. There's offensives in the NFL and offensive lines in the NFL, to be more specific, that are absolutely dreadful. Now, when it comes to these teams, there's 1,000% players on that team for fantasy football that are going to do phenomenal. And I'm not disputing that. But when you're taking these players from these teams, you're gambling. Bottom line, especially when it comes to the running back and quarterback, because and most of the time, these teams that I'm speaking about, their quarterbacks are not even on the draft list. They're not even on top 12 QBs. The only way they're even on your radar is if you're in some weird 2 QB league, which is it's just a weird league. But obviously, there's going to be receivers and running backs on these teams that do really well, and you're going to be like, "I told you so. You're wrong. You shouldn't follow this strategy." No, I don't. I'm not results oriented. I'm more with probability, and I believe that when you're not targeting these kind of players in your league, you are going to succeed at a much higher rate. You're going to make more playoffs. And just like pocket aces, they don't always hold up, but your best chance to win is if you got pocket aces. That's the name of the channel, right? Today we're going to count down 8 NFL teams you should be avoiding drafting in your fantasy football league. Let's start off with number 8. Let's dive right in, and that's the New Orleans Saints. Their offensive line was ranked 24th of 32 last year. Kamara is going to be hurt for a little bit. They have QB issues. Derek Carr's out there in New Orleans now, I believe. Let me look that up to make sure that I'm not just talking out of my butt. I don't know why I second guessed myself there, but I don't believe in Derek Carr. He hasn't been good his whole life in fantasy in football or fantasy football. He's always a disappointment. Devontae Adams had a big year last year. You can make an argument for Chris Olave to have a big year, but that's the kind of player that's a great example, by the way, Chris Olave or Kamara, because if you're going to get Kamara really late, maybe you think to yourself, hey, this guy's great value. I'm going to get an immaculate talent for late. What I'm arguing is stay away from this team. Stay away from these players. And don't be results oriented. Don't look back in hindsight and be like, I should have drafted this guy. No. In the long run, if you avoid these teams with bad offensive lines and bad offenses, you're going to do much better in fantasy. At number 7, now this one is going to be a surprising one, and that's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Obviously, I live here in Tampa, so it makes it even more ironic, but I think that their window is closing really fast here. Mike Evans is getting old. I think Baker Mayfield is a straight bum, and if you see this Baker, I'm sorry. I don't mean you're a bum just in general, but for fantasy football, you're not good. You've been disappointing in your career, and I would avoid this team. I think the offensive line is going through changes. They're going to be on the decline. Tom Brady, he struggled last year. What do you think Baker Mayfield's going to do? You think Baker's going to do better than Tom? Stop it. Coming in at number 6 is the Carolina Panthers. Now this one's kind of an obvious one. Bryce Young, he's a rookie. I'm not a believer in him. I'm a diehard Bears fan, and I'm extremely happy that we were going to stick with Justin Fields and trade back like we did. Bryce Young's undersized. I think it's a dime a dozen if you're going to succeed in the NFL when you're smaller. Drew Brees is a good example of a quarterback who really succeeded. Obviously, Russell Wilson had a great run in Seattle. May redeem himself here in Denver this coming year, but in general, you want to stay away from shorter quarterbacks. I think Bryce Young is one hit away from being out for the season. You could say that for a lot of quarterbacks, but he's just not a big guy. The pieces around him are just absolutely dreadful. I would avoid this team altogether. Don't draft anybody on the Carolina Panthers. Halfway through our list here, let's go to number 5, the Green Bay Packers. Jordan Love is their quarterback, and that's really the end of the story for me here. Similarly, the way I described Tom Brady's struggles with the Bucs last year, look at Aaron Rodgers. The guy won back-to-back MVPs. Then you go into a season last year where he struggled, and nothing has changed in Green Bay. You think that Jordan Love is going to do better than Aaron Rodgers? Stop it. Aaron Rodgers is about to have a great year with the New York Jets and just prove that Green Bay was frankly stupid for not finding a way to keep Devontae Adams, first of all, and second of all, trying to get some more help for him out there in Green Bay. The offensive line's not bad. Aaron Jones and Dillon are obviously beast. And those are good examples of players, along with Watson at receiver, that could end up having good seasons. I'm not saying they won't, but I'm saying stay away from them to be safe, because there's other places in your draft, and it's specifically in salary cap, where you can allocate money to guys that in good situations on good offenses that you know are going to do well. You're not gambling. We want to avoid gambling, and that's what you're doing when you're staying away from the Green Bay Packers. At number 4 is the LA Rams. This one's another obvious one for me. Stafford's coming back from injury. Cooper Kupp, he looks good in camp, but he's coming off injury. And just because you look good in camp doesn't mean anything. As a matter of fact, it means nothing when you're out in LA, because he's going against bums in the secondary in practice every day. So wait until he starts playing some NFL guys. I'm not saying that Stafford's not going to spray him with targets like he always does, because that's what Stafford does. But I'm saying stay away from anybody on the Rams. They're going to be an awful offense. You don't want to draft Cam Akers with that crappy offensive line. Stafford's going to be struggling to have more than 3 seconds in the pocket. Cooper Kupp could have a good year, but you're going to have to spend a high draft pick on him or allocate a lot of money and salary to get him. And I just say stay away from anybody on the Rams. Number 3, you have the Arizona Cardinals. Now, Kyler Murray is coming off an injury. He's not going to be back until I don't know when. I haven't looked at the timeline, but he's not going to be back. You got probably the worst team in the NFL. DeAndre Hopkins has gone off to Tennessee. Their offensive line sucks. You should not be drafting anybody on the Arizona Cardinals. I mean, in any of these teams I'm naming, you should really only be drafting them in a snake format when you're kind of forced into it, right? Like you're in a situation in the later rounds where you're like, wow, this particular player is of immense value at this point. I mean, Connor, the running back, you're not going to run into a situation like that, because at the times that he's going to be available in a snake, there's going to be other guys around him that you should be drafting. Stay away from anybody on the Arizona Cardinals. At number 2, the Pittsburgh Steelers, with a mediocre offensive line and an even more mediocre Kenny Pickett. I'm just not a believer in Kenny. I avoid anybody on the Steelers. I'm not going to go into depth about that, but I think your best bet is to avoid anybody on the Steelers for the same reasons I'm saying about these other teams. And finally, at number 1, probably the worst team in the NFL. I have Carolina, probably the worst team, but it's the Houston Texans. CJ Stroud, he could have a good big rookie year. Who knows? It's a gamble. That's my point that I'm trying to make here. Pierce, he had a good year last year. It was a surprise, and guess what? If you want to gamble on Pierce this year, go for it. But I'm saying you shouldn't. I'm saying that you should be avoiding these teams. This is the way you win fantasy football. You stay away from the bad teams and the bad offenses, and you have a choice. You have even more of a choice in salary cap because you have your $200 that you're allocating to whoever you want. But in Snake, you have a choice too. These guys are gonna for one, some of these guys they're not even going to be available to you in an 80p draft where they're just following on the other side of the board from you, so you're not even thinking about it. But if they do fall to you in your position in your Snake draft, you should be avoiding these teams, avoiding these players. Pick somebody else. Pick somebody on a good team. This is when a lot of mock drafts come in. Practicing a lot of mock drafts in Snake is very important because then you could start to strategize what position you want to take each player because they're available at certain times. You're picking teams in good offenses and finding a player in each round that you can spend to complete a roster and make an immaculate team. And that's how you win fantasy football leagues. You stay away from these kind of teams. There you have it. That's the 8 teams that I would really avoid this year in fantasy football. Honorable mention to the Redskins. I think they're going to be absolutely. I said Redskins. Excuse me. I don't know if I should take that back, but I'm gonna leave it on here for funniness. The Commanders, the Washington football team. I would stay away from them, and I probably would stay away from the Raiders this year too. Obviously, Josh Jacobs and Devontae Adams are big names, but I'd just stay away from them. I think they're going to struggle. I think that they're going to be on the decline this year. That's pretty much what covers this part of the strategy. Thanks for watching Fantasy Football Aces again. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. This is a unique perspective from your boy William Wolf. Stay tuned for all that we have ahead, more videos, live broadcast, and obviously the revolutionary website and app that is going to be on the way. This app and website is going to change the game for fantasy football, the whole landscape. It's going to be revolutionary, and I'm not underestimating it when I say that at all.